Happy Friday, everybody. And you know what that means. It's time to do another weekly paycheck budget with me video. Hi everyone, my name is Jackie. Welcome to the channel. We are enjoying life's journey and we like to share our real household number budgets. We follow a zero-based budget, an every dollar budget, if you will, and I do use an Excel template that I've created over the years. But if you're interested in seeing how we budget out our money, then let's jump on the Excel. I mentioned last week, anyone who leaves a comment on last week's video, I will be going over them in today's video. So stay tuned, watch out for your comment throughout the video. I'm going to try to pair it up with the part of the budget that I feel it best is correlated to. So like I mentioned, this is my Excel template that I've created. You can purchase it on Etsy. The link is down below if you are interested. So every week when I come onto my budget, one of the first things I do is I go onto our Discover It credit card and I see everything that was charged for the week that needs to be paid still. And I put it under here on my card column. So I'll have, the gas and food and things like that will show up on here. And then I go on my bank account and I just make sure that my accounts or my different bank accounts are balanced. And so I make sure, if bills came out of the necessity account, I go ahead and take those out. I just make sure that everything matches up before I get into the actual planning part of the budget. The next thing I do is I go through, sometimes I go on my yearly budget plan and make changes based on stuff that's going on, and I have some changes, so I'm going to show you those in a minute. And then I'll go to the previous week, make any changes based on how much we spent for groceries, gas, if we spent money in any other areas that we didn't originally plan for, and then that way I can adjust those within future months of the budget, and then we get into this week's budget. So it's kind of my weekly money routine, if you will. So I encourage you to create your own routine that helps you to keep a handle on everything, kind of know where everything's at. I also encourage you to do a paycheck budget because this is really where you see the biggest change in having a handle of your cash flow. So the first thing I do want to do, like I mentioned, is I want to jump on the yearly budget and just go over a few things that are kind of changing for next month. We finally finished our taxes. I originally thought we were going to get the full child tax credit back, but I forgot how much money I made last year because I worked for Amazon for part of the year, I worked for the hospital for part of the year, and then I did get some of the pandemic unemployment. So we did not get any federal back. In fact, we owed federal $39, so I'll be making that adjustment in last week's week, so I went ahead and paid that. But for March, we are going to get $223 back for our state taxes, so at least it wasn't nothing. And then if you remember, I took out this bonus from our other budget because I wasn't sure if it's coming in yet. I'm going to just leave it there. We'll see. But I am getting $839.43 reimbursed from our health reimbursement account. My husband's company puts $500 a year into this account, so we had $1,000 in there. I did spend, some time in the ER with COVID last year, and I also had some TMJ. I had to have injections and molds and stuff made for TMJ, so I did have to pay my deductible, and luckily a good portion of that was covered through that reimbursement account. So these are filed and these are pretty much approved, so I may see them in February, but I went ahead and lined them up with March just in case it takes a little longer for those to process. And then also here, because I'm not going to be doing the MVD, I'm not going to be doing my tags in February, I moved that over for March. But February here on my yearly budget, I'm not going to update these numbers yet until February is done. Another thing that changed for the entire budget was the cash back for Discover. This month we got less. You're going to see that in a minute. So I went ahead and just adjusted that for the rest of the year and just said, hey, we're probably only going to get $20 a year because we're not really eating out a ton and we cut our grocery down a little bit. So that helps, it's going to less cash back. You spend less money, you get less back. That's fine. And then the other thing was I canceled our Amazon Prime. So you'll see here, I went ahead and changed that across the board for only the Netflix, and I do need to change that for this month. I went ahead and canceled it. We got refunded for last month, so I already adjusted that, and then we're going to change it for this month. So those are some things I like to kind of keep an eye out. If it needs to be adjusted for the entire year, then I go ahead and do that. But let's jump on this week's budget. So first thing, last week, like I mentioned, we're going to scroll down. What did we spend? So we spent $107.12 on groceries. If you missed it, I just posted my grocery haul video. We basically spent $101.12 on the household groceries and $6 on our tortoise lettuces, if you will. Gas, we're going to figure out how much we actually spent for gas real quick. So we budgeted $125. My husband ended up driving my car instead of his truck to work this week, but I am going to use my car tomorrow. I'm filming this on Thursday because that's when I have access to the pay stub, and then on Friday I have some errands to do. So he's going to take his truck so I can take my car around. But so far he spent $67.21 worth of gas, and there's still one fill up pending. He likes to fill up as soon as he gets to a half of a tank. So his last fill up in my car for a half of a tank was about $20. So I'm going to add $20 onto there. So we're going to say $86.21. So yay for that. We're going to go ahead and change that over here. So I'm going to say it's actually only $86.21. Whew, right? We're doing our best. The girls have been riding their bicycles to school and home. Our house is only a half a mile from there. So I used Ricky's truck one day for my laser hair appointment. And you know, I was realizing that was the first time I drove his truck, and he's had it since like June or July of last year. And it drives really smooth. I could see everything. I was worried because I'm short. I wouldn't be able to really handle that truck because it is a bigger truck than his previous one. But yeah, I liked it. It's pretty good. All right, so like I mentioned down here, for this is now the $15.49. Then Ricky, we mentioned that we're going to try not to eat out this month, and that the money that we're going to put $20 in Ricky's. He spent a little bit more. It was $22.87. If you remember, on the grocery budget, it was actually $27. However, the money we had left from that we got reimbursed from the Prime from the last month, that's what I just applied towards that. So that's why it's off a little bit, but that's basically what it was. Okay, so we have $52.99 left that we didn't spend this last week. So we got to tell it where to go, but I'm going to come back to it because if you notice, next week I have this negative 32, or this week I had this negative 32. So let's find out if that's really happening or what's going on. So let's head on back up to the top. All right, so real quick before we get into this week's budget, I'm going to jump on the comments and see if we have anything that's relevant to the income portion of our budget. So I want to start off with Making Me Better's comment. She commented, said, "Thank you for sharing reality rather than suggesting everything is fine. We all have to adjust our plans when the money is not what was expected." So thank you so much for leaving that comment. If you watched last week's video or you watched my monthly budget for February, I basically, I started off budgeting with the overtime, and then it looks like we're not really going to have overtime. And then I thought my husband might still get a bonus, but then he thinks he's not getting a bonus. So I did have a lot of juggling around, and that's really what it's all about, you guys. Your budget is not the end-all be-all. It should be a working document. It's there as a tool to help you with the cash flow. So yeah, sometimes you just have to kind of change things and move things and see how it is, but that is reality. And so sometimes things are good, sometimes things are not so good, but things are picking back up, so I think we're all right there. The other thing I want to touch on is Barbara's comment. So she said, "I like your budget videos," and she says she does things differently. She does not put anything in her budget until it is a sure thing. She said she used to put things in there kind of like I do, and then she would always get disappointed because the money, it wouldn't seem to work out the way she wanted it to. So that is a really good tip. Obviously, don't put it in there unless you have a better idea of a sure thing. Now, like I mentioned, when I do my yearly budget, I kind of take all the overtime from the year before and I average it out, and that's kind of how I do my yearly budget. But when I go on to the actual monthly budget, like you saw, I'm not budgeting the overtime until I know it's in there yet. The hours that my husband's working this week is for next week's paycheck. So I can kind of budget a little bit ahead of time by putting in, if he has extra hours, I can put that in next week's paycheck, so I budget a little bit sooner. But yeah, that's a good point. Don't really put it in there unless you know it's a sure thing. But I definitely encourage you to try to put everything and anything in there, though, so you are telling it where to go. and we're going to come on down real quick and plug in the income. So my husband's base pay is $27.23 an hour, 40 hours a week. So it's the $1,089.20. I make this black because that's the official amount in there. If you remember last week, he said he was going to work on Saturday, so I went ahead and projected out 8 hours of overtime. He actually had 11 hours of overtime. They did 8 hours on Saturday, and then he had 2 days where they did 9 hours. So I'm going to update this number real quick. So this is actually $449.30. So it's actually $449.35. So I'm going to make that black because that's the updated number. And then here is where the cashback wasn't as high. So we only got $23.07 on our cashback. So, you know, it's a good thing because we didn't spend as much in January as we had been spending. Obviously, though, we don't get as much cash back. So that was something I forgot to recalculate for the new month. So basically, that's our income for this week. The future weeks, I'm not putting in overtime. Ricky's not working this Saturday. We have our terrain race, which is like a mud obstacle race that we're doing Saturday. So he's not going to work on Saturday. They may have had a few days where they did 9 hours, but I'm not going to put it in there until for that one I know for sure, just because he did have a day that he thought he had 9 hours and it was really only 8 hours. So that one we're not going to put in there. And then obviously we're not on the next week to do the 25th yet. Like I mentioned last week, I took out the bonus. So we have 2 more comments kind of related to overtime and the bonus. So Jenny and Sarah, thank you for commenting. So Jenny says she wanted me to know that my videos encourage her and that her husband is in sales, so his income can be really good or really bad, and is trying to find that middle ground, basically trying to save for the low months. She said that they were in a really good place, they were saved, and then she tore her rotator cuff. So Jenny, I really hope that that's healed, or that you're healing nicely. Obviously, unforeseen circumstances, and that's what our savings usually is for emergencies. And then, you know, she had to pay that deductible. So, like I mentioned earlier, I understand having to pay your deductible. I really hope that you are recovered. Sarah also mentions that they used to have 2 or 3 months out of the year where they didn't have overtime. So they would form what's called a Hills and Valley Fund. I thought this was really clever. So thank you. Yeah, so the same idea as Jenny, basically both of you saying save up for those lean months. And then obviously she said, you know, once they got debt free, they no longer need that fund, which would be really nice. So congratulations, Sarah, for being debt free. She also wishes my daughter a happy birthday, so thank you so much for that. And then Amanda down here also says she hopes Ricky gets the bonus. So fingers crossed, but there's no word of it right now. So last time they got it in February, it was like the last paycheck of February. So we'll just have to see what happens. Last year they thought they were not getting anything, and then they ended up getting $600. So we'll have to see how that is. And then Life in the Beach, we're going to come back to your comment when we get down the budget a little bit. So again, thank you guys for commenting. If you leave a comment on today's video, then I will be sure to address it again next week. So finishing on down for this week, then we have paying ourselves first. So if you missed it before, I mentioned we had to cut down our investing because of the lack of overtime. So we're going to leave the investing at 5% for February and March, and then the rest of the year we're going to increase it 1% every month. And so then by the end of the year we'll be investing 15% of my husband's income. The goal was 20%, but you know, we gotta work with what we got. So I'm just going to double check the pay stub and make sure these are the correct numbers. Yep, so these are the same. So I put these blue, so at a glance I know that this was money invested or saved. It's not spent and gone. All right, now coming on down to the birthday. So like I mentioned, it is my daughter's birthday. So we're doing the leopard tortoise. It's $175. We use cash. So I'm actually going to change this to $100. Well, I'm going to leave $175. I'm going to go ahead and add $5 for donating, because we're just going to give her $180. That's what I have cash already on hand. And then we're going to count $5 of that as just donating to her tortoise place. It's a tortoise compound, if you will. They have all kinds of tortoises and lizards and everything. So I am gonna increase that. So we're just gonna give her that. Oh, the other thing I forgot I need to change for taxes for federal here, I did pay what we owed, which was $39. So I need to put that on last week. Okay, so this week's was $20.26 worth of federal taxes was withheld from my husband's paycheck. State was $17.86. Medicare was $21.04. Social Security was $89.94. Now these are taxes that come out after 401k, after health insurance and things like that. So normally when I'm projecting out, I have the percents over here based on what Medicare and Social Security percents are and based on what we have withheld for our state taxes. And federal, I just kind of estimate. We do have 2 children, so we usually have the child tax credit, which offsets a lot of taxes for us. So we just kind of estimate those out, and I usually overestimate, so then luckily when we do the budget, it's less than what I projected. All right, and then this was the new thing. They added this AD&D on to our life insurance, so it's $906 now. I just need to double check this long-term. The long-term disability is $526, and then our health insurance is $87.80 per paycheck. Now moving down, we're gonna keep things as is real quick, and we're gonna see what's left at the bottom of our budget. So we have $13.99 left from last week, and we have $84.09 from this week. So if you guys remember, we had moved some of our bills to the first paycheck of March. So we want to try to bring some of those back. So most likely what we're going to do right now, we're just going to make some progress with the mortgage payment. So I'm going to use those extra funds into the 2 mortgage payments, the money that we're putting aside for the mortgage payment, and then we'll take some of that out of that next week's paycheck. So I'm gonna go ahead and delete these out and scroll down to the bottom and see what was there. Okay, so I'm gonna delete this one out and see how much we need. So if I need $14.35, so I only need $89.15 out of the next paycheck. So I'm gonna make this week's orange because these are gonna be in the bank tomorrow. You guys are gonna be watching it. It will be in the bank on that day. And then what I do is I line it up for my income checking account as the direct deposit. So when I log on the bank, I know already where that money's gonna be for. So I'm gonna put that here real quick. That's gonna be the 808.47. We're gonna keep our grocery budget at 100. I'll film it after I go shopping again. I'm gonna share them all week and we'll see how we do. We're gonna keep the gas at 125. Ricky will still drive my car most likely, but we'll see. But that did help save quite a bit, which was good. And then Ricky is going to have his $20 here. Oh, and actually, I just remembered, I need to change this. We have our terrain race, and it is, so it's something we planned months ago, so I'd already planned it, but there's this $20 cash for parking, and then $5 if you want them to store your bag. So while you're on the course getting all muddy and stuff, you can have a bag with your change of clothes and your towels and all that where it stays protected and secure, and then you can go pick it up, and that's $5. So I wanted to add $25 to the event for this weekend. So that's actually going to come out of, that'll come out of the mortgage thing real quick. So let me adjust that. I still have $212 in there for home project type stuff. It's money we had put aside from our refinance, so part of this is coming out for projects. Ricky really wants to continue the garden enclosure on Sunday, so most likely that's what this is going to go towards this weekend. So we want to get if you missed the other video where we started the enclosure, you can check that out and stay tuned. Possibly in a week or 2 we'll be finishing up that project. Okay, so now we have a 0 for this week, meaning we've told every dollar where to go. And we have $73 left for next paycheck. But the other thing I want to take a look at is over here to see where am I miscalculating some stuff. So I should have, the direct deposit is going to be $1,210. I have $212 still in there. So I should have $1,423 in there. And I think I forgot to put the, giving in there. I was like, what did I forget? So join me next week. I'll show you a picture of the new hatchling leopard tortoise. Oh, okay. So this cash back, the $23.07, that's where I'm off. This is not in my bank account. This is a credit on the credit card. So what I usually do is I count this off of the gas. So I'm going to come down to gas here, and I'm going to subtract the $23.07 from the $125, and it's 101.93 is what I'll actually have in the bank. And then if I scroll over to the side here, I have a note that says cash back 2307. So when I go to pay on the card this weekend, I can use this cash back up and then use CAT or use the rest of the money moving forward with that. All right, so we're going to tell this money where to go, but real quick, our last comment from last week, life is a beach. Thank you for commenting. You came over from the my Amazon video, so thanks for joining us on our budget video. He says, good job. Dave Ramsey says, rice and beans and rice. Don't go to a restaurant unless you work there. Hope you get the truck paid off and the house. So thank you so much for commenting. Yes, we're trying not to eat out. We're not necessarily doing rice and beans if you watch my food haul video, but we're still staying in a relatively low budget for groceries. But the biggest thing for us is we're trying not to eat out as much as we were. We were getting really bad about it. So thank you for the encouragement. And again, thank you for everyone who commented. If you leave a comment on today's video, we'll be sure to share it next week. All right, so we have 7308. What do we need to do? Well, we need to come back and put in some of the bills we had moved out of this month. So all of our bills right here are for stuff that's due in March. So I want to try to stay a little bit ahead. The bills that we moved over to the first paycheck of March are the bills that are due more like in the middle of March. So we still would have had the money maybe a few days to a week ahead of time, but I want to have it ahead a little more ahead of time. All right, so we're gonna head up the 7308. We're gonna put up here with the truck payment. So I'm gonna delete this out and see. So that would have been $95.23. So then I have to see how much do I need out of the next paycheck. So I need $496.74 out of that last paycheck. If I come down, we still have the 73, right? We just kind of rolled it over again. We can finish out, we can do the full laser instead of only half of it. So that gives us $46.25. So we're gonna come up here. The other bills I had moved over, one was the cell phone, so that's not due till the 17th, so that's further out. We have water, sewer, or we have our Sunrun, our solar, that's due on the 7th, so that's closer. And then we have water, sewer, trash, which is due on the 10th. So we're gonna go ahead and put part of that towards the Sunrun, the solar bill, so we can start getting that a little bit, because that's on the 7th of next month. Now, the first paycheck in March is the 4th, so I would still have the money for these bills a little early, but not early enough for my liking. So we're gonna do, that was 46. So we're looking a little bit better than we originally looked at the beginning of the month. However, I'm not planning on Ricky having any overtime for sure for the 18th. He might have some overtime on the 25th. We'll see. He'll probably pick up another Saturday. And then, fingers crossed, huh, Amanda, that we get that bonus. Yeah. Okay, guys, thank you so much for joining me every single Friday as we budget out our paycheck. And again, leave a comment below. I'll be sure to address it in next week's video. I hope these videos help you in some way. If you'd like to pick up one of my Excel budget templates, go ahead and head over to Etsy. The link is down below. As always, thanks for watching. I'll see you soon. Bye.